Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. This week, we are turning to one of those basic food items that I cannot imagine living without. And I know there are people who have allergies or who've chosen not to eat eggs. But in my life, it's a basic protein. I had a couple of eggs for breakfast. I poached them really quickly, so I was able to get that protein and get on with my day with a little bit of fruit. And while I've seen a lot of backyard chickens, an egg farm, that was something I hadn't visited until a couple of years ago. And I remember asking Dianne McComb, a friend of mine, she's from Ontario, Canada, which for Americans, I know we don't all remember where all of our provinces are, but this is the one that's next to Detroit, okay? She's up there, and I asked her some questions and stuff so I wouldn't look too bad before I went. She has now sent me photos for the website. We've got some videos we're going to share. And Dianne and I are going to talk about all things eggs. Now, I can tell you she earned a forever spot in my heart because she gave me shoestrings that had eggs on them. I don't know if you even remember that, Dianne.
Oh my gosh, I didn't remember that. That's cool.
And I got to lace up my Chuck Taylors with some bright yellow egg shoestrings. So, but tell me a little bit about your farm in Southwest Ontario. You say you're about 2 hours from Detroit. What's the area look like?
It's a little bit rolling, fairly flat though. Lots of farms around of various sizes, and we're not too far from small towns and cities around where I am. There's a number of small towns and cities in Southwestern Ontario. So about 20 minutes to the closest city that I, go to. 2-hour drive to Toronto, 2-hour drive to Detroit. So that kind of situates me in the middle of it all and middle of the Great Lakes. So lovely snow in the wintertime and lovely beaches in the summer. So it's a great location. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds perfect. And what's your farm look like? What's the farm setup?
It's a family farm.
Okay.
My brother and I took over from my parents several years ago. It's not that big, 400 acres, which is average size. We had beef cattle, crops, and hens, laying hens. But we kind of dropped the beef cattle and focused more on the laying hens and crops. So we have corn, wheat, and soybeans that we rotate on our land. And some of it gets fed to the hens. And then when we feed the hens, they lay the eggs. And then when they poop, we put the manure back out on the field to feed the corn, to feed the hens. So we have a nice rotation and nice system. And we have a couple of employees that work with us, so we get a little bit of time off.
Yeah.
Actually, my farm is in transition because my brother and our children decided they don't want to be farmers. That's not the life for them.
It happens, right?
And we have a young farmer, a young family who have come to work along with us and transition into taking over the egg operation.
Wow.
So it's an ongoing process, and it's exciting. I love eggs because they're just so good and they're a good product. And
right?
Hens are fun little creatures. We have 25,000 hens, which is an average size farm in Canada. An average size farm in the US is a million plus, but eggs in a country are usually eaten in that country for the most part. For about 90% of the eggs that are produced in the U.S. are eaten in the U.S. And if they're produced in Canada, they're eaten in Canada. So
I think they're somewhat regionally based or locally based for the most part in the U.S. at least.
Yeah.
When I went to a farm in Arizona, that part of the Southwest is primarily where their eggs went. Now, maybe some days they're here in the Midwest, but usually
the Midwest has a lot of eggs actually, because there's a lot of corn. So there's corn.
It's kind of wild. Well, you said 25,000 birds. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's an average size.
It sounds like a lot. My brother, I think, has 50 broilers, 100. I don't know, 100 chickens altogether. Maybe it's 50 of 50. Maybe it's 100 of each layers and broilers, a really small farm. And a lot of people like me have friends that have a few chickens in the backyard.
Yeah.
What are some of the differences or some of the similarities between you guys and smaller operations?
We care for the hens. It's hard to believe that you can have an emotion, but they're living creatures. You walk in the barn every day and you see they notice you, you notice them. There's an interaction. We make sure that the feed quality is good for hens and the water quality. So you're feeding and attending to their needs, whether it's, 12 or whether it's, 1,200 or 12,000.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the care of an animal is important. The care of a living creature is important. And they respond by producing this lovely product, and the better the care, the more eggs they lay. They respond as any living creature would with care.
Exactly.
I think on all levels. Yeah.
When you think about it, a lot of my friends who have backyard chickens, they do their chores in the morning and their chores in the evening. You guys have people in the barn probably most of the day.
Not really. No, I manage my own barn.
Okay.
I'm out there about 8 o'clock in the morning. And after I walk up and down the rows every day to make sure that the hens have, water, food and living and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that takes a bit of time. I just do it on my own.
Yep.
And then I gather the eggs because the hens lay their eggs in the morning usually, and all the eggs are laid. So that takes me about another 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and clean up because biosecurity and standards set for, you're producing a food product.
Right.
So there's cleaning to be done every day. And I'm usually finished by about 3:30, 4 o'clock when the kids are back home again. So it's a manageable day.
Yeah.
Where we have the help come in is for the weekends and when you'd kind of like to have a break because it's nonstop every day.
Yeah.
There's no, it's your birthday. Yeah, no, it's Mother's Day. Yeah. It's Christmas. No, you're still going to the hen house. So, but it's not a bad routine. Everybody works and if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And
it's a work day every day.
Every day.
Need somebody doing it every day
single
though.
Day. Yeah.
Livestock is so different than so many jobs, right?
And things break.
Yeah.
Always on a Sunday at 2 o'clock. If it's going to go back.
So among the things that break, what kind of equipment and stuff do you have on the farm? Because I think a lot of us are used to seeing these nice coops that, you get up and you set up in your backyard. You're talking about barns. And do you have like automatic feeders and water? How does all that work?
Okay, we have housing system called Enriched Housing.
Okay.
In my barn, and that it means the hens are contained. They're inside all the time. They have a perch area and a nesting area, and feed lines that run through the length of the barn, and water, little nipple things because hens don't gulp water. They get in little droplets. That's the way they get their fresh water constantly, and they get fresh food constantly all day long. The eggs roll out from them onto a belt where they roll down to a central area to be collected. And out the other end of the barn, there's belts that take their manure out to the other end of the barn to clean out so you can clean them on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
That's my barn. There are different kinds of housing for the hens because people are making different choices when they go to the grocery store.
There are a lot of choices in the grocery store, and I will tell you, it's overwhelming sometimes. Like I remember when I was a kid, there was like large, jumbo, or medium eggs, and I don't remember a lot of other choices. I don't even remember like store brand versus name brand. And now you have all of those things. You have free range, you have organic, you have conventional, you have free run, so can you tell me, like, what do you look for? What,
I look for, I produce the store brand, the conventional white egg. That's what I produce.
Okay.
There's also free run, which is inside a barn, but the hens run around. There's free range, and that's where they can have little access to outside areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's organic, and organic will be free range as well.
Okay.
Like they have that combination. The difference is conventional enriched housing, furnished housing, whatever you want to, one was purchased staying inside the barn. They're the cheapest egg to produce because we can keep the hen safest. She's not encountering only her small group of hens.
Right.
Whereas free range inside the barn, they're all mixing together.
Yeah, I went in a free range barn, and it was.
It's a challenge to manage it. Yeah, you spend a lot more hours in the barn because hens have a tendency to peck on one another. And
I had never given that much thought to the term the pecking order until I saw how hens behave. And I've seen that both in backyard situations and in bigger barns. So it's in nature. It's really something. So that's one of the pieces of difference. And you can decide which one's better for you. It doesn't matter to me, right?
Like, no. It's a choice, and the better managed, and the more we learn about how to manage these hens better, they reduce the lighting and free run or free range.
Right.
So they don't fly away, because the hens' reaction is to fly away, even though they're not flying birds.
Right. But they sure do give it a heck of a try.
They do.
So should I assume you have one breed of bird primarily on your barn, or is it different breeds? Because I know that's one of the things people like with backyards is they can get different kinds of birds that look really different and have different earlobes.
Yeah. They have heritage breeds that are always going to be the root, but no, actually there's, I believe, 3 or 4 basic hens commercially that are developed for commercial use around the world, and they're white and they're brown. But they're also just these 3 different breeds, and I can't remember them right now, Jazz, but there's Dutch and German and American, pretty much. And they have really good genetics, like the amazing things that they've done. Research in the Midwest universities, they have done incredible research in order to help the hen develop traits that are going to make her most efficient. For the hen that my dad had in the barn when I was younger would produce about 175 to 180 eggs in a year. The hen in my barn today produces 340 eggs in a year. And that's genetic. And it's not because we're pushing her. It's because she's like a runner. She eats less, more efficiently. She has a better diet. Actually, my hens have a nutritionist. My kids do not. I put it on the table. You better eat it. Whereas my hens are like, oh my gosh, we got to change up this. But it's not giving them anything that's not a vitamin. People are concerned about that. And it doesn't matter what your choice is in the store. All of those hens are fed healthy diets for hens. They make sure that they have, like if a hen doesn't have enough calcium in her diet, she'll draw it out of her bones to put the shell on the eggs. She's made to lay eggs. That's right. And she's a much leaner bird now than she was in years gone by. It's like a marathon runner. Runners are different. They have different qualities now that they didn't have before, and they eat different things to enhance themselves. Our hens, I look at my hens like little marathon runners.
Right.
They're healthy. They're doing what they need to do. So, but that, from my dad's day till now, the efficiencies are just, incredible. And it's great. It's feeding more people on the same amount of space. It's pretty amazing. Like, really.
Because she is made to lay eggs as a species, right?
Yeah.
Well, and eggs are such a sort of, an inexpensive. I mean, they're not cheap, right? But they're kind of inexpensive to add protein to whatever you're having. So if you're having fried rice, you can have rice and you can stir in some, egg as you're frying it up or something, and you've added a different protein profile to it so quickly. And in today's world, it's a great way to eat nutritiously. And I know in the US, we take it for granted in some houses, but some houses don't have that ability. And then lots of places around the world, certainly, the ability to produce protein on their own yard or something is life-changing in some parts of the world. One of the questions I wanted to ask you when we're talking about their diet and everything, is that why we get different sizes of eggs, or have the way chickens done things, like the way the breeding has gone, is that why we have more like large or jumbo, or is that a different part of their life cycle? Why do we have different sizes?
A hen's a living creature, and they start out by laying very small eggs, peewees and pullet eggs, and then as they get older, the egg gets a little bigger. We, because of the diet, nutritional things that we can do now, we target large. Now, there's some states in the US where they prefer extra large eggs. So they let them develop more to that stage, giving them the nutrition they need to produce those. But basically in North America, the large egg is the standard size that most people look for. Plus, a large egg has a better quality shell generally.
Yep.
And everybody opens the box to see what the eggs are like.
Yep.
That's
see
right.
How many of them are already broken.
Not really. No, it's not what you're paying for. So the better quality egg and better ability for the hen to lay that egg. So that but they still could lay an extra large or a medium, even when they're mature hen.
Right.
Just because they're a living creature.
Yeah, they're having an off day. Give them a break.
All your living people don't look all the same in the same family.
Right, exactly.
So, no, it's just.
I've got a lot of these questions on what makes this happen.
Perfect.
So what happens when you get an egg with two yolks?
That's usually a young hen that lays those double yolked eggs because her cycle isn't really set just yet. So she releases two yolks and her body just wraps them up like any other old egg. So,
all right.
And a mature hen does it, but not as frequently. So,
all right. That one makes sense.
Yeah.
And brown eggs versus white versus the light blues versus all that stuff.
Now, the brown and the white, they're pretty standard. The whites came from a leghorn and the browns from a Rhode Island red. That was the base for them.
Anything with the red in it is my favorite, with the red hair.
Me too. But there's no difference nutritionally. Okay. When you crack open that egg, it's the same nutritional values as, but it's just personal choices. Mm-hmm. European people tend to like brown eggs more than white eggs. And we're just more accustomed to white eggs in North America generally. So, and they're easier to grade a white egg than it is a brown egg.
Why?
So that's sometimes because the shell is less opaque for a white egg than it is for a brown egg.
That makes sense.
So that's why you often get spots, a little blood spot, which is just, it's not a baby. There's no males usually in hen barns.
Yeah.
So there's no babies. And I trust that people will understand that process.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to grade 2s and 3s, they often don't. So.
Right.
Brown eggs can have some little meat spots and stuff in them, and you can just pick those out or eat them. They're not bad for you, but
so part of that is the processing side, and it's on your farm, right? It is.
No,
on some farms, or no?
Not generally. In the US, it is.
Okay.
They're all in line usually, the hen houses in the US. Whereas in Canada, we ship to a grading station.
Okay.
The processor is involved in that they have their own hens too often, but there's a lot of more independent farmers in Canada than there is in the US.
Okay.
That's just the way the things have evolved.
Yeah.
not good or bad either way. It's just in Canada, because of just the traditions that we've had, we have a different system, supply management. And
Yeah.
so individual farmers get cost of production for their eggs.
Okay.
Sometimes eggs cost a little bit more than in the US, in Canada, but not significantly more.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were paying $2.50, we maybe be paying $3, but
Yeah.
not huge. Yeah. Huge
In a
difference.
week's groceries for most of us, that's not much to think about.
For a lot of eating, yeah. But no, it's, brown and white, or either one. Pick an egg.
So now the processing that I was talking about, though, is kind of important, because a lot of times people wonder why you can let eggs sit out or why you need to refrigerate them, right? And that gets back to processing, isn't it?
It does indeed. In North America, all of North America, we wash eggs because North American customers don't care for dirt spots on the outside of their eggs, like poop and dust and other things.
Yeah, it was in a barn with animals, so it might have those things.
Well, and we wash everything, Janice. I mean, this is the period of wash your hands, wash your hands. So, but wash our eggs. Yeah. So that takes off a protective cuticle on the outside of the egg that keeps the egg from allowing bacteria to get in. We take that off. So that's why we need to refrigerate the eggs. Storage is important.
Yeah.
And whereas in Europe, you'll see them sitting out in the middle of the aisle with the rice and with everything else.
It is so different.
They don't wash eggs.
Well, and frequently here, if you're buying from a local farmer or something, or getting them from a backyard farmer, you can leave your eggs out on the counter in a bowl or a basket or something, and it's not a problem. But it is important to understand that food safety difference. Whichever kind of eggs you have, just make sure you're taking care of them, because the reason you don't want to leave them out is without that cuticle to protect them, you have the possibility for bacteria. And
absolutely. And even with the ones that you get from your backyard flock or from others, it's better to refrigerate them. They'll last longer for you. I mean, but they don't have to. They can be left out if they haven't been washed.
Yeah. I love it. How long from the time like eggs leave your farm to when it would be in a store or something?
It's only about 4 to 5 days from hen laying egg till it's in the grocery store generally.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the same timeline in both countries pretty much.
And what all happens in that time frame? So part of it is you gather them up and send them off to the processor. What all does a processor do?
They will wash those eggs. They'll candle those eggs. And candling is they go over a bright light. Then they rock back and forth so that they can see that the shell isn't cracked.
I may have to put a video of this because I called it disco eggs because it was so weird. The eggs are kind of shaking and there's really bright lights on it. It's very weird, but they're looking for imperfections in the egg, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And any that they have an eye that goes through and picks them out too, but they have people do it too. And any of those that are picked out aren't thrown away because they generally have always gone to a place called the breaker, the industrial processing for the processing, that they can be used in baked goods, so they can go to hotels. They're pasteurized in pails generally.
Oh, okay.
The B grade or the C grade, because only grade A eggs get to move on. And when they move on, they're weighed, and it's by weight, not the size of the egg, but the weight of the egg that determines whether they go in extra large, or medium sized boxes.
Okay. So the grading is, and so I think I only have grade A or grade AA in the stores. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything else.
No, you'd only see in the stores. You can only have, because the food agencies mandate all those things, like how much they have to weigh to be in that carton, and they can only be grade A eggs.
And so then if it's grade B, it would be pasteurized and done differently.
Yeah, or cracks, or mildly cracked.
Okay.
Yeah, and That's why they're pasteurized in order to go for even the food services yeah.
And the way it worked, at least at this other place I saw, is it kind of came through the line where it's being washed and it's going through the candling process. And then it's being sorted by weight and put right into cartons. Like, I mean, it went really fast. When you start going, what if I could follow an egg? You can't. You know, they didn't let me put like a purple one in so I could follow it easily.
They should have.
I didn't think I had to bring one, but it was really fast how things were being done, but very clear that things were being pulled out.
Yes.
Along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The handling machines like the egg packers and the graters now are pretty incredible to watch because they will even package the eggs and lift the eggs into the
it was wild. I mean, I saw them like putting eggs in like full pallets, like ready to go to grocery stores. They were labeled. I'm gonna have to look and see if I still have that video on my phone.
It is
somewhere in Google Photos or something, because it was really wild to watch.
It is.
Here's another important question: hard-boiled eggs. So what's the deal? Like when you get those eggs that will not peel right, or how do you suggest we boil them? I am an Instant Pot girl now, which is
okay.
But
they're good in Instant Pot. The problem that most of people encounter is that you can't peel it. Well, and the reason is because they're too fresh. Like I said, they're from the hen to the store in a short time. And the closer you get to the best before date, those eggs will peel much easier than eggs that were just bought and brought home. And people mistake that thinking, it's because they're not old. They're really fresh. They're too fresh and you need to keep them for a bit. Better close to the due date. And when you're cooking them, if you, not Instant Pot style, but old pot style, put them in a pot with the water about an inch above the eggs in the pot, turn it on, bring it to a boil, then take that pot off of the element and let those eggs sit in the hot water for 15 to 18 minutes.
Really?
Then you won't get that green circle around the outside of the yolk because eggs are a very gentle kind of product. So,
I don't like that green circle.
No, I don't either. So, and I often do it and I have eggs. And then if you cool them off, bring them out and then crack them all over when you're trying to peel the
off. Yeah. It's funny. My mom rolls hers in the hands.
She's got it. She's
either that or she does it on the table. And it was funny. We were making a bunch of deviled eggs for a family dinner and making potato salad. God knows how many eggs we had boiled. And my poor niece was having so much trouble. And my mom sits down and she just gets those things done, right? And finally, my niece looked over and goes, oh my God, that's the way you do it. Okay, I can do this now.
I know.
Right? Like it's those little lessons of rolling the egg in your hand or on the table that really make a big difference.
Yeah, your mom's got it.
Obviously. She's done this a lot of years. So now deviled eggs are they've been on trend for a while now. Right? Like, at least in my part of the world, you can go to a restaurant and deviled eggs are one of the appetizers. They may be serving it with millionaire bacon or something crazy. What are the trendy parts of eggs that you like? Are there trendy foods with eggs that you like?
I like any kind of biscuits with egg. Like I like either bagels and eggs. And like, I'm not a fried egg person too much. I'd have to say, and I like hard cooked eggs for snacks. Oh, a little salt and pepper and a hard cooked egg. Oh my God. Like that's satisfying. That's comfort food for me. But if not, then a scrambled egg on a bun or a biscuit. Wow. That's
my family, we have some that are vegetarians and things, and they love to put like an egg on top of their pizza.
Oh yeah.
Or something, because it fits, they're not going to put pepperoni on there since they're vegetarian, but it gets that protein level up. And it's always interesting to me to see how different people do them. But the idea of deviled eggs and fried eggs on top of burgers have been, pretty good because it makes such dramatic photography when you have that yolk running out. or something, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Asian foods that do that too. And I've just been noticing that.
Right.
So,
In ramen or something,
yeah,
you drop an egg in.
yeah.
And hard-boiled eggs as a snack are something I didn't really see very often several years ago. Now, my family, my mom would just go in there and get an egg, like calm down, right? Like, so you'd really, be okay until dinner came or something, like if you're starving.
Yeah.
But now you can actually find them at like a truck stop, where they have hard-boiled eggs sold in pairs or, nice little containers. I'm really surprised, but the value of eggs as a snack seems to have been changing in the last few years.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the ease of it, but mostly, I think for most people, there's certainly the nutritional value, but it's like eat your broccoli and it's because yeah, but I'd sooner because I can pick it up and eat it like a tree rather. And eggs are, yeah, they're an easy food to eat on the run, and definitely our lives have been on the run. So
you ever served them on a stick?
Yeah,
like a popsicle?
My kids did that.
I had never seen it until a couple of years ago, and an egg farmer gave me an egg on a stick, and I thought, are we seriously doing this? But it was really quite good.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if there were any other things you wanted to help me understand about how Canada does it versus the US, or any questions on eggs you think I missed.
Well, I'd like to just say before we leave the nutritional part of it is that really every age can, if they are able to, should eat eggs. People can start feeding their children when they're very young. I think it's now 8 months, 6 or 8 months. Please check that. I don't, but very young, but it's easily digestible food for young.
Yeah.
And certainly through our lives for good energy source. Great place for kids to learn how to cook is with an egg.
Oh, yeah.
And seniors really. And it's concerning that seniors got that bad information about cholesterol in eggs, because there's good eggs in
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. It's very odd how that conversation around cholesterol changed.
It did, and it was science and facts that proved that eggs are not detrimental to your diet. And for a senior who's not eating as much and maybe on their own now, eggs are a really good source of nutrition. And I always encourage that age group in particular to eat eggs.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, some of our elders don't have the heartiest appetites anymore.
No.
And so finding ways to eat good food in a small package is always a great resort for them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So now I can go into the other stuff if you want. You still have time. We have a different system here in Canada, and actually some American farmers are starting to look at it, not necessarily in eggs, but in dairy. They're looking at it. We have a system of supply management, and what it is an agreement with the government that we do restrict imports coming into the country. We know what the market needs are for eggs, and there's egg farmers. There's 1,000 egg farmers across Canada that produce the eggs that are basically on our counters and for the population. Now there are imports in, and particularly from the US, because we have pretty similar standards. So, and also trade agreements, but we'd really rather not, thank you. But the big thing is that we look at all the costs to produce an egg, and farmers get our cost of production back. And that's fair marketing, that's fair trade. We don't get any government subsidies at all. Mm-hmm. We get our dollars from the market, from the consumer.
Yeah.
So the cost covers our expenses. The grocery store can set their own price. So the price that I get for a dozen eggs isn't what you would pay in the grocery store. Whereas in the US, it's an agreement between the egg producer and the grocery stores. And, that's tough negotiations.
I just want to know that I have nice, safe eggs available to me. Now, I love it when I'm with family that has backyard chickens and I get fresh eggs from their farm. I love it. but it's not for me to grow my own. So somewhere between that backyard chicken place and somewhere else is where I'm going to be.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of store brands and stuff like that. I know they usually come from people closer to my area and pieces of that. So I'm going to ask, like on Twitter, you're active on Twitter. If folks want to reach out, I can drop your Twitter handle in here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'd be good.
I'll make sure that goes in the show notes along with on the website on Grounded by the Farm. We'll have those videos from
Farm and Food.
Yeah, there you go. Farm and Food. And we'll have those in there. I'd encourage people, if you really enjoyed this episode, either leave us a review or like tell your friends, hey, you got to hear this about eggs. This is cool stuff. So anyway, I'm Janice. This is Diane. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm even on Clubhouse. So feel free to look us up. Also on our website, groundedbythefarm.com. Wherever you want to get in touch, we're trying to be there. Shoot us a message about questions you have about farming and food. I hope you enjoy these episodes enough that you'll share them with friends, whether that's via social media or in a conversation. Love to think some of that is while you're having dinner with friends and family. This is a production of Grounded Communications. Editing is by Two Guys Talking. Thank you.